G'day, guys. Welcome back to another week of the NRL Supercoach Talk Draft Waiver Wire podcast. It's Chris and Simon back again for another week, breaking down the round 9 waivers for the 2019 season. The first ever Magic round. Mate, you must be pumped.
Oh, very excited, mate. Are you getting involved this weekend?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Every game except for the Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday not so good, but I think I'm not able to get there the whole one because I'm actually off to see the Book of Mormon out of complete fluke. so the Sunday's no good for me, but try to get to as much of the rest as I can.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea, and the city's buzzing. It's going crazy.
Oh, great concept, mate. I don't think it'll be the last time we see this, so bring it on.
Yeah, so good. Look, mate, it's been a pretty busy week in terms of injuries, as unfortunately most weeks have been recently.
Yeah, mate. There's a lot of the season enders. The MCLs are starting to pop in. Pardon the pun. It's looking pretty rough. So, has actually looking very quick look at these team lists. It looks like quite an interesting week. Yeah,
it's a sneaky good week of waivers. I think we've been pretty lucky of late. There's been a few interesting waiver wire weeks to talk about, and this is certainly no different. There's just been all sorts of news. Obviously, Cody Nikorima moving across the Dutch. And there's been lots of other things too. Obviously, the McCulloch injury at training and that sort of stuff that you don't see too much of. It seems to be a bit more of a busier year this year than most.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big ones you said there, mate, is definitely the move across the Dutch, and I just cannot wait to see if all these people that said Nikorima would look great with a guiding half beside him, as they do to Milford. We'll see. We'll see. I know where my money's on, but they pay big money, so someone must believe in him.
Yeah, I think obviously we'll get to that game in a minute, but yeah, that Warriors team's a bit interesting this week. I feel like CHT has been pretty hard done by just to get dropped. But anyway,
super harsh, mate. But anyway, continue on. Let's get into it, mate. Titans v Sharks.
Yeah, so obviously all these games are at Suncorp. So this is the Thursday night game. First game of the round. Look, I feel like this is probably going to be that one game that not many people are going to be going to. It's kind of like a mini curtain raiser, which you should never really say about an NRL game, but the people of Brisbane and the people travelling up from interstate. I'm not a huge fan of this Thursday night for the Magic round. It's a bit of a weird way to kick it off. It's a bit of a dull start, in my opinion.
I agree, mate. It is odd, and it's not exactly a showcase game. I guess they're trying to bargain on the fact that there'll be a lot of, expat Gold Coasters that are just, in Brisbane and just are going to get along to support their team. And I hope they do. I hope they fill it, but I'm with you, mate. I think they should have probably congested it even a bit more into the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, but look, with that being said, I mean, I'm no great fan of either of these two sides. I'm kind of just a neutral sort of observer of these teams, and I feel like of all the games of the weekend, I'm glad this is the one that's on the Thursday.
Yeah.
Because you look at some of these names and you just think, not really missing out on too much there. So let's go look at the Titans first in terms of waivers. So, look, I can see here that your mate Tyrone Roberts, how many times is he going to get injured this year?
Can find his way to an injury. I apologies, I'm not certain of the nature. How long are we looking this time?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't actually know. I'll look it up while we're on here. But AJ Brimson, he looks bloody good when he gets the start, but you prefer him at fullback.
Surely prefer him at fullback. So it does. Look, he's still going to have upside, and it might not even be the worst matchup here. With obviously a fairly sort of, I don't know. The Sharks aren't depleted, I guess, if you look across the board. They've still got most of those players, but I don't know. I think it's an okay matchup for him. Waiting to hear, obviously, how long Mr. Roberts is out for, but while he's there in a starting side, if he's not already rostered on teams, he's certainly a good guy to bring in.
He's out for 1 week with a concussion.
Jeez. I mean, I guess the upside with Brimson here is if he plays the lights out at 6, he's not going to get dropped. It's one of those spots. He looked good last week. Is this that opportunity again that Knox Is 1 week enough to push Roberts out of the side or Gordon out of the side? I don't know.
Look, he's a really good stash, especially for those leagues that play buys. Obviously, the Titans play the first buy round. The way he played at fullback the other night for the Titans, he just added an element to their attack that just not many players do in their team. He took them to another level. And when I saw Philip Sammy go down injured, obviously they've tried Copley there. He's back on the wing already. Branko Lee's 20 in the 21 jersey, so he's a long way from first grade and with the reserves. It's got to be in the back of Garth Brennan's mind that Michael Gordon gets pushed to the wing to accommodate Brimson when their team's fully fit. It's got to be starting to play in his mind, I reckon.
I agree, mate, and it might have been very close if Cop Shop hadn't come back this week. That had to be very, very close. So I'm all about your stash of Brimson. I'm all about, if in leagues where he hasn't been picked up yet, you could justify a waiver claim based on what you just said. Just be aware it may not pay dividends straight away.
Yep. And the last thing to note on the Titans is I believe there was a report to say that Pete's is looking at returning in round 13 to come out this afternoon. So I guess that leads me to ask you about Mitch Rain and what you kind of think of him but for these next few weeks as a bit of a sell high target.
You could probably write it a bit longer, but I guess the first time you hear an article, I guess you've seen an article, but the first time the articles come a bit more frequent, that's when you lose your value on Mitch Rain. So if you want to try and package him up to grab someone, maybe if you want to take a punt on I'm going to say, your Hodgson types that haven't been going well or something like that you think might have at least long-term season value, I don't know, that could be the time to start doing that now.
Yeah, I mean, there was a trade in our league just before, about an hour ago. Mitch Rain and Lachlan Burr for Tolman, I think it was.
Yeah, good. I certainly like the side. I take it that person has a backup hooker. I believe they have Fainu, which is risky because Coruscant will be loitering at some point. But that's a good trade to pick up Tolman in there. I don't mind that.
I actually like it for both teams because the player that's getting Rain had no hooker, essentially. He was playing, I think it was a combo of Jaden Brayley / Victor Radley, which is just vomit-worthy. So I think that's a pretty good trade, pretty even deal. But I think if you're the Rain owner, they're the sorts of things you should be trying to do at this point.
Yep. Yeah, I like it.
Even the McCulloch owner now, see what you can get.
Yeah, true.
All right, mate, on to the Sharks. Now, for the Cronulla Sharks, you've got Cole Flanagan still at 5'8", with SJ still out injured. You've also got Aaron Gray pushing out to a wing, with Dugan also keeping his spot at fullback. Look, I know it's the Titans, and you usually want to fire up any backs. Other than Bronson Xerri, I don't want anything to do with the Sharks' backs. That's 1 through 5. Cole Flanagan's a real sneaky little pickup. I don't mind him. I'd probably have him as a low-end waiver, but he was probably claimed last week.
Yep.
Yeah, they're probably the big two names really for mine is Xerri and Flanagan.
Yeah, not much else to see there, mate. That's pretty much, as you've said it. I think fire up Xerri. Josh Dugan, I don't know. I guess he'll find something at some point, but probably Dugan and Xerri I could handle against the Titans.
Yeah. All right, let's move into the Friday game. So 6 o'clock Friday, got the Tigers and the Panthers. Now, for the Tigers, you've got only the couple of changes. Benji Marshall's been recalled into the side, which is still pretty good for Madison owners. I know he scored a try last week and hit some upside, but you still much prefer him in the second row for his value. And you also see Matt Eisenhuth push into the starting side at lock with Alawai out with concussion. So what do you make of that move?
Yeah, Eisenhuth becomes very playable there because I think the minutes with I can't imagine McQueen's not playing 80 at this stage of his career, is he?
That's a really good question. I actually missed the games on the weekend. I know that Alawai played 55 minutes last week. I'll just have a quick squiz at the Rockstar McQueen.
Yep, I'm just going into the minutes now as well.
He's got 80. Yeah, he actually did play 80.
He actually did. Okay.
Didn't do much with it, 38 points, but yeah, he's been getting 80 the rock star.
Interesting. Very interesting. He's at 80 the last 2 rounds. I guess it does take it, because when I looked at that just blind, I would have thought that he probably was more getting the 55 minutes with a chance for some bigger, 60-ish for Eisenhuth. But how many minutes do you think Eisenhuth can get in that jersey?
I think he can get probably 60, 55, 60.
Decent PPM on the man. Look, he's a fine enough start while he's ahead of Alawai there with injury.
Yeah, I'm just going to look up Eisenhuth. He just want to talk about his PPM because what did he get last week? 36 minutes, 43 points. So his season max in the 3 weeks prior, he's had 58, 57, and 50 minutes.
50, yeah.
Which is pretty good minutes. Like, I think starting at lock in the rotation that it looks like they're going to have, I think he's a certainty for getting 55 this week, just with that rotation. So based on his score so far, you're kind of looking at a 45 to 50-ish point performance. So that's probably where you'd value him this week. Would you waiver for him?
No, I don't think he's waiverable.
No.
In 12 and 16 team leagues potentially, but not in 10 team leagues.
That's fair enough. And also, I mean, usually we save the questions for the end of the show, but we'll kind of touch on it now since we've reached it. But we got a message on Twitter from Adam Spicer, I think his name is Spicer.
G'day, Adam. Thank you for listening, sir.
His question was: is it a worry for Farah's minutes with Little on the bench? I noticed that Farah still played 80 last week, but Little is lingering. Well, I'll let you answer that first because I'm a Farah owner. So yeah, what do you reckon?
I think it's trouble because I think that with Benji back in the side this week, I feel that there is a red hot chance that Farah. I believe he might have shifted to second receiver or something last week. So yeah. I think there's a chance that there's a bit of trouble. He won't get his full 80.
Yeah, look, it is a worry. There's no doubt about it. Like, as a Farah owner myself, it's less than ideal. But he is also Little. You got to view Little as a utility, even though he's a specialist hooker. Because, like Chris just said, when Little comes on, if there's an injury to any half, then Farah can push out of hooker and go and fill in one of those roles if need be. So maybe that's why he's there, is just kind of that backup for any half injury. And then if anything happens to any of the outside backs, you've got McQueen and or Madison that can push out and play centre or whatever if they need to. I think it is a worry for Farah getting 80, but it's not a worry for Farah getting high 60s.
Yeah, I think high 60s to even sort of that 70 minute is still pretty safe. I don't think Little's going to start, chopping into 30 minutes of his game time because, Farah's obviously been playing well. So, but it just takes that little bit of glint off what's been an amazing start to the year. Yeah,
it certainly does. All right, mate, on to the Penny Panthers. Now, Dean Fare's back in the side, which sees DWZ go out to the wing. MWZ, I believe, is out for a couple of weeks. Obviously, Kickow named on the extended bench, which is great news for owners of him. Considering what might have been. It sees podcast regular Frankenstein, Frank Winton, back. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about that.
I don't either. You just can't. Sure, he could score that flukish try, but you're not excited about Frankenstein. I just think the season of James Fisher-Harris will just continue rumbling on because his role with Yo going down for the year, it's absolutely locked him in as a high-end front row starter.
Yeah, he's the real deal.
He's the real deal this year. Good luck to anyone that got on board with that. It's got a flukish sort of side to it, but it's certainly you're very safe now.
Yeah. He's a fine enough Supercoach player. I don't know if I was a real life coach if I'd be wanting to play him for that many minutes. I don't think he's really that much of an impact player, but he does nothing. He doesn't do too much wrong. He's just he's a very, very good toiler, that sort of workaholic type player. So
I'll also stick by if you once you take kick out of that team, that is not a very threatening looking football side.
No, not with Winterstein and Hame Sele thrown back into the side, and you've also got Dean Fare, who we've already mentioned many times is not the most attacking centre going around. What about Wade Egan though? He played 80 on the weekend, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like he's a likely type. Obviously, had a really good game a couple of weeks ago. I mean, he's firming now. With Farah and the other struggling hookers that there's been, potentially could be a top 10 guy, especially now with McCulloch going down as well.
Yeah, look, I think you mentioned it the other week. His base isn't great, but if he's going to be getting 80 minutes in this team, then he's a great fallback option for McCulloch owners, and obviously if you own Coruscant, I'm not sure if who'd be still starting Coruscant, but if you were relying on guys like that, you might be looking at him as a go-to. All right, let's move on to the next game, which is the Sea Eagles away to the Broncos. That's cool. I feel like Manly have just been stitched up there, just absolutely stitched up.
Yep.
So yeah, obviously the huge news we just touched on was Coruscant moving from hooker to play 5/8 with Lachlan Croker out of the side, which sees Manasi Fainu moving up to start at hooker with zero bench hooker at all, which is pretty much locking him in as the waiver claim of the week, I believe.
Yeah, waiver claim of the week, or anyone that got on a bit earlier when Coruscant, who's had his struggles. Very interesting one, mate. What do you look? Fainu's definitely locked in as a high end waiver claim. What does it mean for Coruscant, considering obviously then he is just eligible as a hooker? What do you think?
I don't really know what to make of it. I think when you look at how he's been going this year, just with the minutes he's been missing out on with Fainu there, I actually think it has to be a good thing, right? I don't see how it can go much worse than how it's already been going.
I do too. I'm just really curious he's obviously unders this year in terms of injury. He has to be because he's been a dynamic Supercoach player himself. So without the base stat in the tackles, I mean, look, he'll still get 20, 25 tackles a game, sort of something in that range.
Yeah.
It obviously shores up the middle for them as well. He's good in that regard. I think he's actually a sneaky get. Yeah. I don't hate it.
Really?
Because he's had when he's had the ball in hand before, he's going to run it, so he's not going to pass for the line all that much. Being the sort of player that he is, if this means like he's got past a few of the injuries and he's starting to feel a bit better, it could work.
Yeah, geez, it might well work. How long is he going to be there though? Like Lachlan Croker's not out for that long.
Do you think though? I guess what I'm looking at here is if Fainu is indeed the bee's knees and they want to start him. If it does click and it does work, I guess I'm being optimistic here for deeper leagues, but there's just something interesting about that with Coruscant 6.
Oh, it's just so much more better. It's just so much better for Fainu than anyone else. I think really I'm not spending a lot of time on that because that's just an obvious one. That's just a big win. Fainu now is especially with those hooker injuries, he vaults way up the chain. Yeah, look, I'm not as big on Coruscant at 5/8 as you appear to be, but I wouldn't be spending any waiver claim on Coruscant, put it that way.
Oh hell no, no! I'm not hyping it that hard. I'm just trying to put an argument together for him that there could be something there. But certainly don't spend a claim. But in terms of if you've already got him, interesting upside from that position for mine against a struggling Broncos team as well this week.
Yeah, that's true. This Broncos team is a bit weird. But what about Corey Waddell before we move off Manly?
So minutes last week for Corey. How did he go?
Well, they got majorly inflated due to Fanua Blake going off injured.
So he seems to be the beneficiary of he's the go-to man, when there are injuries.
Look, sorry, you go.
Yeah, I was just going to say, without those minutes though, is he really an option?
Well, the thing is he just keeps getting them. Last 3 weeks, 55, 62, 48, 42.
Mm.
But before that, he got 15 and 31. But is he starting to find his way into more minutes, especially with Fanua Blake out of the team this week? Is he going to come on and play more minutes in the forwards? It's just so hard to tell because they literally have four forwards on the bench, and all three of their back rows, so Joel Thompson, Curtis Siren, and Jake Dvorovich, all play 80. So they've got four forwards to rotate through two front row spots.
Which is why I can't get that excited. Come back to me if he gets named, as a 12 or in either of the starting front row. Even in the starting front row spots, the minutes probably aren't that much different. But I don't know if he found his way to a back row position, maybe due to injury, then I think we get excited. But I don't think you can keep relying on this random upside thing.
No, probably not. I wouldn't. Oh, he would not be a starter if you were to pick him up. I would not be starting him with any sort of confidence. Okay, on to the Broncos. Now, obviously, something that affects both you and I, you with Jimmy the Jet and myself with Jermaine Sarko, both being dropped, which, look, you and I have been watching that side of the field quite a lot as owners of those two guys. It's not unwarranted that they get dropped, but I feel like there are bigger issues. How are they the first ones to make way? I'm not really sure.
Well, let's not wax lyrical about the obvious. Like, Darius, we've seen him live. We watched him on TV. We all know what's going on there. It's not pretty, right? He's not solely to blame. Certainly not. The sweep play is almost absent for the Broncos this year, apart from a couple of times we've seen it. So that's his bread and butter that's being denied. But I'm with you, mate. I just think that's somewhat harsh. Who goal kicks now? Is it Dearden?
It'll be either him or Stags, I believe.
Okay. I picked up Katoni because I felt something had to happen where he would have to come in. So I've had him for a couple of weeks now, and it's good to. I think he's the one that just deserves his chance. So I guess if you look at Jack Bird, obviously, who's been playing well, apart from dropping the ball randomly over the try line, maybe that's why Roberts had to be dropped.
Yeah, because they want to move Stags to Bird to the right hand side of the field.
Yeah, Bird to the right and get Katoni, a spot in the side. That part makes sense. I just think, that's a big call to drop both of those two. Matt Lodge starting is just beyond me. I don't understand how that's a thing. He's obviously not been in great form. So, Matt Gillett being underdone as well. Alex Glenn obviously being a bit of a toiler. It's not a great side this year, is it?
No, it's really weird because start David Fifita.
Yes. What Flegler's been a very good impact player off the bench, but that's what he is. He's not a starting lock.
No. All I can see here is that what they want, what Seabold wants here is Flegler getting named in the 13. That's just they're naming just the starting team. That's not going to reflect the minutes at all.
No, it isn't.
With those guys, Flegler's going to start the game. He's going to use a cricketing term, take the shine off the new ball. Just see out the first 10 to 15 minutes, and then that'll be it. He'll be off, go hard, rip in, go off, and get these other guys on. Get TPJ out there to rip in. Once those guys start to get a bit fatigued and that sort of thing. So look, if you're an owner of Pangai, look, this is not a non-issue really. But going back to David Fifita though, there's been too many games the Broncos have played, and the match has been already over before David Fifita has even got on the field. And
there's something being missed there by Seabold. I agree with you.
Yeah, whether you're just too loyal to Alex Glenn or what, but you got to try something else. You got to do something with a gun. David Fifita is just such a stud, and I just don't get it.
And Matt Gillett is certainly short of Gallup this year as well. I know he is a star and as someone that you hope going into next season will likely get back to where he was, we hope. But hasn't exactly lit up the gaps either. So surely a spot for Fifita. Does that mean, is Fifita someone you definitely hang on to at this point?
No, not really. I don't think he's a definite hang on. he's probably on many waivers out there, and that's good reason because he's been named to start a couple of times where we've been excited about Fafita, and nothing's happened. So I think he's just a guy that should be on waivers and is a non-claim. I would not be rushing out to get him. So look, for waivers for this game, Katoni Staggs, like I mentioned, Shibasaki, I don't really have any interest there. There's almost no job security rest of season there, I don't think.
No. There's no way Roberts and Osako. I mean, Roberts may go to the Bunnies. We've seen that come up quite a bit, but there's no way Osako doesn't stay in reserve grade.
Yeah. Look, I'm all for Osako getting dropped, by the way. Like, he's done some bad stuff. He's dropped too many passes. His goal kicking hasn't been – look, it hasn't been bad, but for him, he hasn't been quite the level he was last year. He's suffering a bit of that second-year blues. So I think him getting dropped is probably the best thing for him if you're an owner of Osako, even though it hurts you this week. But, look, he's been hurting you for the last couple of weeks with those poor scores. So I think he's someone you still hold on to. I wouldn't be selling him, but, yeah, just hold on to him. He'll come good. Especially if they do ever do anything with Darius Boyd getting dropped or anything like that. Okay, so let's move on to the next game. Saturday, 3 o'clock. First game on Super Saturday. Bulldogs at home to the Newcastle Knights. For the Bulldogs, it is an unchanged team, I believe, from last week, which is pretty good news for all the doggies diehards out there who are sticking fat with them. I know we've got a Nick Meaney thing on the line there, mate. You started Nick Meaney last week.
Yeah, very good. Glad he found some random upside for me, which he certainly didn't. Yeah, just one of those random desperation plays to when you don't have Tommy Turbo. So, yeah.
Great stuff. That's how the mighty have fallen, eh?
Yeah.
But, yeah, look, any waivers for you for this game?
What do you think? Dylan Napa with his random upside earlier in the season. I see offer Hickey Ogden has been dropped this week. So, anything there, mate, with obviously New Brown on the bench?
No, look, only Holland. I don't mind Kerrod Holland, actually. He's been scoring okay. He hasn't been going amazing, but he's been getting you around that 40 points each week, and he plays the first bye, so not a bad one if you're looking for a hooker-eligible player for that bye round, which can be rather hard to do, is to fill out a full team with all the positions. So probably not the worst guy to have on your bench at this time of the season. That's about it for me.
Interesting one there, mate, that'll sort of tie into a later game, but those rumours of Michael Leisha, who lit up for reserve grade apparently last week, the Roosters looking at him as someone who can come in and do a job. So just one to have a look at.
Oh, I'm sure he lit up first grade. Reserve grade. Of course he would. Why wouldn't he?
He apparently ran the ball a lot. So I've always confused why he doesn't run the ball in first grade. I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I hope the Roosters don't sign him. But,
fair enough.
All right, so the Newcastle Knights, mate, you guys had a good win on the weekend.
Yeah, revelation really is just the form of Mitch Pearce all of a sudden. I mean, he has to be started until further notice in even 10-team leagues.
Yeah, he's just so involved in the match at the moment that you just got to run him. He'd have been on waivers in quite a few leagues as well.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
What do you do with guys like Connor Watson and because he was kind of highly drafted, it hasn't really done anything this year?
I think it's one of those spots that we often overlook in rugby league, and I think I've been called out a bit this year especially, and possibly last year, is that it certainly seems as though there's only really room for one sort of chief playmaker with sort of a second guy who chips in. And like when you've got a gun fullback like Ponga who you want to get the ball, whose runs were admittedly quite low, he only had 9 runs last week, Ponga. When you got a dominant half like that, it doesn't leave a lot of room for Connor Watson to consistently be a good Supercoach player. I think the best example of that is when JT was going so well and Michael Morgan was a bit of a, he'd score you, yes, he'd get you on 80 and 90, but predominantly he was like a 25 to 35 player. And that's kind of what Connor Watson is.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like he has to kind of rely on opportunist type tries, doesn't he? Like,
Yeah, which means he's really no better than like some of those CTWs. So I think really that unless something dramatically changes, which would almost be an injury to Ponga or Pierce, touch wood, touch wood, touch wood. Yeah, not excited about Connor Watson.
Yeah, I think he's going to start hitting the waiver wire, and he's probably going to stay there until after that bye round.
Yep.
Okay, so the next game is the Warriors versus the Dragons. So for the Warriors, like we touched on earlier, Cody Nikorima slots in at 5'8" with CHT out of the side. I guess the most surprising news of the day for the Warriors is who's going to kick goals, with Isaac Luke also out of the team in the extended bench on the reserve. So he's actually not in the 17 at all. What do you think happens here with the goal kicking?
Jeez. I mean,
Tohu Hara?
Tohu, probably. I think we've seen him kick before. I can't see any others there. That Blake Green's not a goal kicker.
I think Patrick Herbert might be able
to. Okay. Yep.
I don't know if he's a very good one, but I think he's good. I think he might be a sneaky chance.
So has he kept Solomone is reserve grade or injured?
Both.
Or still both? Okay. Yeah. So I guess that makes Herbert interesting. If indeed he was.
It's hard because I know, like, when Cameron Smith didn't kick that week and Brady Croft took over, and then the very next week, the Warriors were versing the Storm.
Yep.
And you kind of figure, well, if Croft's going to kick again,
yep,
with Smith not kicking, then he'll be a good start. But then Munster kicked, so it's hard with Herbert because what happens if we're kind of wrong and it is Tohu Harris who kicks?
It's just a boon there to Tohu. But I think, look, mate, I think it's a fair you sort of cop that it'll be Herbert, but it'll be one of Herbert or Tohu, I'd say. Yeah. I just want the couple other ones there, mate. So Cody Nikorima. My inclination is here he's waiverable just because if you're going to spend that money and do a mid-season transfer for a player, he is going to get his chances of that sort of upside running play that he does. I'm thinking kind of like a poor man's Ben Hunt.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, look, it'd probably be a very poor man's Ben Hunt, but I see what you're going with.
He's not a guy that's going to get you the base, but neither does Ben Hunt really. It's more he's a guy that, he'll have a shot at upside every week without being someone that you'd be super scared about. He just, if he blew past and scored an 80 against you, you'd be like, all right, I copped it. That's where I go with him. So I've got low end waiver for Cody if you're needy in the halves.
Well, that's exactly what Cody is. He's as good a chance of hitting upside as any half, just because he's. When I say upside, I mean a try. Like, he's as good a try scoring threat at half back or 5'8" position as there is.
Yep.
It's just that his base is crap.
His passing game's not strong enough to give you, a threat for heaps of try assists either.
Yeah. So if you're playing the upside game, he's well worth a shout. But yeah, I see where you're going with that.
Roach.
Yes. Yeah, he's available at CTW hooker, I believe, as well, which is sneaky.
This is very interesting because your boy Tavanga still, now that he's, I take it he's over his injury.
Yeah, he might. Well, yeah, he must be. He must be. He was out last week, so
he was. Now, Carl Lawton is also on the bench. So, how do you make about this hooker rotation?
Well, I don't know. I kind of think that Tavanga's just gonna. Is this weird 3-way hooking rotation that they employed the other week, where Tavanga comes on kind of with 20 to 25 minutes into the game, plays lock for a little while, and then pushes into hooker, with then Carl Lawton coming on. This could be really bad for Roach and Lawton. I think Tavanga's kind of locked into his 48 to 50 5 minutes thereabouts.
As a hooker, like in this side, because Papali'i's played his 80. No, he plays his back row rotation, doesn't he?
He spells Burr.
Spells Burr, so that's locked in. So Tohu 80, Papali'i we imagine will continue 80. What's the minute upside on Roach? Because I'm intrigued by him as a super coach player.
Well, with Lawton there, if it was just Tavanga, I think it would be way better. But we're seeing Lawton there. He's got to be there as a spell, probably 20 minutes. Okay. I reckon 60 minutes is his upside.
60 upside. Is that enough to make him a starter or waiver claim?
No, not for me.
No, I think you're right. I think he's a guy. I agree with you. I'd love to have just seen Tavanga there. My heart sank when I saw Lawton.
Yeah, because like Tavanga either takes Burr off the field or Burr pushes up and plays front row and takes a front rower off the field. It just depends on which side of the bed Kearney gets up on, really.
Yeah.
You can't really pick it, but look, I don't think I'd be getting Roach.
Okay, I agree.
But geez, I would love to be wrong on that because I do see what you see there with potential.
Yep. I think a free agent stash or a very low waiver claim as a bit of a punt is absolutely acceptable there.
Yeah, nice. What about the Dragons? So you've got Ewan Aiken still on the bench with Lomax keeping his spot in the centres. You've got Pereira and Ravalawa still in the wings and Jai Field coming in for Corey Norman, which is pretty big blow for people who are starting him because he's been sneaky good at fantasy this year. He's having quite a good year. So he's out about 6 to 8 weeks with a fractured jaw, I believe it was. So he's been done for a little while. For me, it's only really Lomax if he's still out there, which I doubt he would be because he probably got picked up last week as the Dragons. Yeah. I think he'll probably have a much better week this week, Lomax. I think the Dragons win this. Or if they don't win, they should put a few points on. They kind of butchered that game the other week against Parramatta after being up 14-0. So I think Lomax is a really good start this week and a definite waiver claim if he is still out there. But I also think Jai Field is also pretty sneaky just for those couple of weeks as well. He got a bit of a run last year, didn't get much footy time on the field, so I think he's a free agency pickup and stash if you need to get either halfback or 5'8". I think is his dual. I'm not too sure.
I thought he might have been a fullback dual, but either way, I think he's very similar to the Nicarima pickup.
Yeah. I'll just check his dual as well because obviously if he's fullback, I don't know, which would you prefer him be? Halfback 5'8" or?
Look, fullback's pretty tough to fill this year, so.
Yeah, well, that's good. He's fullback 5'8". There you go. He's sneaky. Not a bad one.
Don't mind it at all.
All right, that's about it for the Dragons. Well, onto the Storm. I think it'll be pretty quick on the Storm because there's pretty much nothing there for waivers, I don't think, unless you see something else.
No, I was going to potentially could have a rant about how Felice Kafusi hasn't hit any upside this season. It's got to be due owners, just can't be too far away. I think the one I'm interested in, mate, is that Curtis Scott, even with the Storm not getting up, has still not found his way back into the starting lineup. So, I mean, Vunivalu he's averaging about 20 this season. Surely upside is around the corner for a few of these backs.
You'd imagine so. There's got to be a get-right game soon for the Storm. And because at the moment, you're only really – you're starting Hughes most likely and Addo Carr. But Vunivalu, Chambers and Seve. Seve's been getting you 38, 40 base, but that's about all he's good for.
Doesn't look threatening. Doesn't look like a guy who's going to cross the stripe too frequently, to be honest.
No, he doesn't. And Vunivalu and Chambers are just not Supercoach relevant, really.
Which is crazy, mate. The Vunivalu, just remember, a few years ago when he just couldn't stop scoring. That has just disappeared altogether.
Well, the problem with Vunivalu is even if he scores, he can still be less than 50.
Yeah. To be honest, mate, I think I was going more from a rugby league fan perspective. He just used to be so exciting to watch, but that's just almost disappeared since Cronk left.
it's weird. Like he's not. How do you put it? Like he's not clinical anymore. He's got all these mistakes in him that he never used to have.
Yeah, it's great. As I said, he used to be one of my favourite players to watch a few years ago, but just not there. So
He's such a loose cannon, hey? Like he does some really random shit. Like you seen that one season how he like was running that kickback against the Roosters, and he just jumped at them like a hurdler into the defensive line, like he was on Game of Thrones or something, just running into the bloody White Walkers or something. Like, and then there was that game last week. He was chasing a kick that went into the in goal, and he dove from like he got to the before the try line and dove to try and get this ball. Whoever they played last week, the Sharks, it must have been. Or was it? Who did they play last week? It was the Sharks, wasn't it?
It was the Sharks, yeah.
Maybe it was the week before that. But anyway, the fullback just picked it up. Actually, yeah, it was Dugan. Yeah, just picked it up and just like took a step to the right, and Vunivalu was sliding in front of him like a metre away, and he just picked him up and just made a break exactly where Vunivalu would have been if he just stayed on his feet and tackled him. Like it's he just does some really crazy stuff, Vunivalu, but he's good to watch. But geez, he's a loose cannon for fantasy and real life, but he's a no-go. Okay, so the Parramatta Eels, Chris. Manu is still on the bench. Now, I feel like it's a ticking time bomb as to who will lose out in this Eels rotation of forwards. I just don't know what's going to happen, especially when you still got Nathan Brown to come back into this team.
It's going to be real interesting to see what happens here. I know I wouldn't want to be relying on any of them as starters because there's a lot of forwards there to divvy up these minutes, and the love affair with Moroa continues for some unknown reason. I don't want to be a Parramatta owner. Yes, they're going to play the first bye round, which is great, but other than that, it's going to be rough to see.
Yeah. So yeah, look, no waivers. I think everyone's owned who should be owned, and it's against the Storm, so not this week. Okay, first game on Sunday, so 2 games to go on Sunday. Roosters versus Raiders. For the Roosters, not really any news there. Ikavalu's back in the team after he was a late withdrawal last week, but he's probably not really an option. I think there's not much doing in terms of waivers for the Chooks.
No.
Over to Canberra, it's a little bit more interesting with Rapana back in the side, which is just proving his powers of being a fast healer yet again.
Mm-hmm.
He has time and time throughout his career. BJ Leilua is the big news here. He was a weird laid out last week, and he is out indefinitely, which sees Oldfield take his spot. Now, this is pretty big news for Leilua owners because he's having a sneaky good season.
Big news for them, and also big news for Rapana. That without Rapana with Oldfield on the inside, that's completely different.
Like it's like Oldfield is obviously not the class of Joey, and for all we know, like he could be out for a number of weeks because I think it was said to be similar to Jake Friend's injury with the kind of like that neck shoulder, kind of like a burner that they wanted to kind of wait to settle down and make sure it was 100% right before he comes back. So yeah, not great there on that front. Look, you're not going to go and chase Oldfield off waivers because even though he did score a try last week, just don't go there. With the Raiders, though, what's kind of interesting is their back row.
Yes.
So you've got, obviously, Bateman, which is brutal for owners of him, out 6 to 8 weeks, having surgery on his eye socket. Hudson Young's been named to take his spot, with Ryan Sutton keeping his spot at lock. Do you think there's a chance of this Hudson Young being an 80-minute guy, or is Soliola going to find his way in there, do you think?
Well, Whitehead 80. What has Sutton been? Obviously, with injuries in game, it's probably going to be hard to tell if Sutton's minutes are inflated or not.
What's he done here? He hasn't been getting like amazing minutes. He got 54 last week, 45 the week before, and 53 the week before that. So 54 max, 55.
Well, then think Hudson has a great shot, but I'll tell you what, for those who either I guess ignored our advice / just hung on through some tough times, Josh Papali's minutes now look so much more secure than they did about 4 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, like he's probably going to get nearly 60 minutes at front row here.
I think he almost has to with that rotation. Like looking at that bench, I think he's good for plenty. With only Louis as the other starting front rower. So of those forwards, I mean, I think Papali looks the best of them. So good luck again. Just shows you the swings and roundabouts of Supercoach. I firmly believed our advice, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and just amazing what a few injuries can do.
Yeah, I mean, to our defence, mate. Like at the start of the year, he went 47, 49, 41, 47. And then since we kind of said, no, get off him, he's no good. Because I think we said that about week 2 or 3.
Yep.
So he probably had about 1 or 2 bad weeks, and then he went 90, 94, 52, 61. And then last week he got 66 minutes, scored 49 points. So the minutes are way back up. Like he's getting an extra 8 to 11 minutes a game, which is great for a front rower. So that's where his points are going. Anyway, this Hudson Young plays the first bye round. Do you think he's a waiver?
Sure. I can make an argument for it. I'll be honest, mate. I don't know heaps about him and what we can expect. But if he's coming straight into the starting side there and with a chance of 80 minutes, I've got to say he's a waiver.
Yeah, I'm just going to look at what he did last week. He played 54 minutes. He scored 63, but that was with a line break try.
Mm-hmm.
He based 32 in 54 minutes. Yeah, look, he's not a bad stash, I guess. He's someone you'd be starting if you're really, really desperate, but I think he's more of a guy that you just save there and use in the buy round if he does end up being more than that. Okay, last game of the round is the South Sydney Rabbitohs versus the North Queensland Cowboys. Now, for South Sydney, absolutely nothing doing. Their team hasn't changed for a few weeks now, no injuries or anything. So
I tell you what, mate, touch wood. Yes, they lost GI this year, which we knew it was kind of on the downward turn anyway, but boy, are they running well in terms of injuries.
Yeah, they are. They are going really well, South, aren't they?
It's that consistency that gets you winning, breeds a winning team, and they're just flying at the moment. And no one's flying more than Cody Walker. Unbelievable.
Oh, geez, he's playing so well. He's playing so well. Like, he couldn't do any more to try and get an Origin jersey, that guy.
I almost feel like he is. He's done it that many weeks in a row now. I don't know. I feel like he almost has to get a chance, which would be terrible for people that want him for the big buy round. But he can't do better. So hats off to the man. But yeah, no claims there at all. But on the Cowboys side of things, mate, Kyle Felt has returned.
He has. He's back. Only like 8 weeks later, he's back.
I am maybe talking with my heart a little bit here. I'm happy with a low-end claim for Kyle Felt because the Cowboys, it's Ben Hampton on the other side of the field there. He's going to have to do something for him to make a stuttering attack look good. I also think, is Jordan Kahu goal kicking this year? I guess has been solid. It only takes an injury to Kahu and Kyle Felt would be kicking. So there's a chance.
That's right. There is a chance. Like, Kahu isn't a clean bill of health at all throughout his career. He's been known to cop the odd knock here and there. So probably not the worst stash there. How high would you be on the waivers to take a punt?
Oh, low-end claim, mate, or if you're really struggling CTW. Maybe if you just lost James Roberts, he's probably a pretty good option.
Yeah. You also got your good mate John Asiata also in 5/8, which is
he's dead to me, mate. He's dead to me. I needed him that 1 week just to score anything, and he did nothing as a starting lock. But truth be told, mate, take my situation out of it. He had a little bit upside last week. I like him. I like the fact that he definitely gets 80 minutes there, doesn't he? There's no weird rotation with Baptiste or anything like that.
I wouldn't think so. He should get 80 there, I reckon.
Is this his spot to lose?
At the moment, it is. Yep.
As crazy as this to sound, because he's probably the best option because young Jake Clifford just hasn't quite been up to it yet. So,
well, in fairness to Asiata, that try that he scored where he put the grubber across for Hampton, supported up the inside and scored it under the sticks was a pretty bloody good try on the weekend.
He's a talented player, mate. I'm a fan, and if I guess playing in the halves with his size, he should at least be getting the 20 to 25 tackle range. You would hope.
Yeah, he should get at least 20. You'd think.
He's an interesting sort of low upside option. I think he may hit you one attacking moment to get you a decent start, but I don't know if he's going to start churning out the big scores.
Nah, probably not. Also, the Hess Express, mate. It's been bloody tough going for owners of him. I can say that firsthand that it has not gone well, but he's finally back starting with the injury to Maguire. Probably only a 1 week job. I think Maguire's looking to be back next week, but look, he's starting. If he starts and gets 80, which it looks like he's going to do, he's well worth a really low end waiver because I don't think he's making that Queensland team this year.
He shouldn't be. That you can't play that poorly or be, remember I said to you in previous years, I like him a lot better as a bench impact player when he was just running really hard at the line. Remember he was scoring all those tries. He was a bit of an upside front rower. Now that he's only 2RF eligible and he's not running the ball that hard, he shouldn't play Queensland and he's not really that exciting in Supercoach.
Yeah, he hasn't been, when he has been getting on as the impact player, he hasn't really been doing much.
Why isn't he bending the line anymore? Is he carrying an injury maybe we don't know about? It's odd.
Yeah, I don't know. Not too sure. But yeah, don't quite get it. But yeah, I guess he's someone that's well worth a low end stab this week. Okay, so that wraps up the waivers. So we'll kind of just recap our top priorities for the week. We said number one was Manasi Fainu.
Fainu, yep.
We didn't mind the look of Katoni Staggs maybe as number two.
Yep, Katoni's up there.
Number three, I think probably still Lomax if he's out there. I think has got to be still up there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the look of, well, probably number four. Is there anyone I've forgotten here?
Yeah, I'm just scanning through now. Nah, I couldn't get excited. Eisenhuth might be very time limited.
What about Brimson?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Brimson versus Nicarima is interesting because if Brimson keeps the spot, you'd rather him, but it's more likely Nicarima will.
Yeah, look,
these are all lower end ones. I think you can bunch them. Like you can sort of bunch. Brimson, Nicarima, Eisenhuth.
What about Cole Felt?
I think Felt, because you've obviously got the rest of season value there I think he's at very least he's a 4 CTW.
Yeah.
I think it's fair. So they're all in that range to me. I think the other one you can throw in that is a bit of the couple of more, I guess, high upside plays, or should I say, lottery plays would be Hudson Young and also Nathaniel Roach, I think, should be owned. I think the other one you forgot was Jai Field.
Yeah. All those guys are more your free agent type guys, aren't they?
They're more your low-end waiver or punt players, depending on what you need.
Yep, definitely. Okay, so that wraps up the waivers. So let's just have a quick squiz at questions. I don't think there was too many this week. Our mate Keats, Keats, he's asked for a best waiver replacement for Andrew McCulloch. We kind of touched on that with Fainu, with Coruscant, probably not really Roach, but they're probably the best sorts of guys out there. Is there anyone we missed? I feel like there was a hooker there that we didn't. Maybe Wade Egan.
Wade Egan is a decent crack. Yep.
Yeah, so that's probably your range there, Keats. I think that's on it because we mentioned the Farah one, and yeah, okay, that's it. Just those two questions. Well, mate, that's sums us up for another week. Thanks for Thanks for chatting, and we'll be back again next time.
All right, thanks for listening, guys. Cheers.